2.
Hey everybody, I'm Kirsten. I work here at Plaid in the design studio, and welcome to Let's Paint Live with Plaid, where we teach you guys how to paint a painting in about an hour. And we always love a fun holiday here at Plaid. So this week's painting is, we are celebrating St. Patrick's Day. We really just wanted to do something kind of fun. We always do florals and birds and landscapes, some fun abstracts, but whenever there is a holiday around the corner, we love to do something kind of fun. It's a great opportunity for kids to join us, or for somebody that maybe is a super beginner and wants to just join us and do something fun. Of course, we like to focus on a technique, so we will be doing a little bit of blending, a little bit of dry brush. We'll be doing a fun scraping technique to get this almost like an ombre rainbow. So we are learning some techniques, but we just want to do something really fun to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So the first thing I want to do is go over the supplies that you are going to need for tonight's class. So we always recommend colors that are in the Let's Paint Live kit. And that kit has all of the FolkArt acrylics that you'll need for all of our paintings that we do on Monday nights. So that's a really great thing to know, that if you have that kit and you want to join us again and again and again, or if you want to skip a class and just join us every other Monday, everything that you need is in that kit. So it's a great thing to have, so you don't have to go shopping every time you see a painting that you want to participate in. So I am gonna tell you the specific colors that we're using, in case one, you don't have the kit, or two, you just want to pull out the paints that we're using for tonight. So we are going to be using a red, we're going to be using baby pink, we are going to be using bright pink, we are going to be using pure orange, we're going to be using yellow. Look, you guys, I got to put on my glasses. Daffodil yellow. I've got 3 greens on here, and for anybody that maybe is not using or hasn't purchased the Let's Paint Live kit yet, I'm using 3 greens because they're all in the kit. We've got a lime green, a thicket, and a classic green. But really all you would need is a light and a dark green. So I don't want you guys to not take the class because I'm using 3 specific greens. Same with blue. We're going to be using a navy blue and a true blue. But if you just have 2 shades of blue, that is perfect. We are also going to be using aqua. We're going to be using lavender, and then black and white, licorice and wicker white. So we're using, as you guys can see, FolkArt matte acrylic, perfect for so many things, but fabulous acrylic paint for any of the techniques that we're doing today. And then for those of you, again, that have the Let's Paint Live kit, all of the brushes that we use in all of our paintings every week are from that kit. So I want to show you guys what we're using. If you don't have the kit yet, the brushes don't have to be exactly the brushes that I'm using. I love to have a big flat brush for base coating. This happens to be a 3/4. If you have that, if you have a 1/2 inch, anything to base coat. And then I always say an assortment of other flat brushes. In the kit, it happens to be an 8, a 10, and a 12. But again, if you just have a variety of flat brushes, that's perfect. And then we've got a 1 liner and a number 2 flat. So just a large, some mediums, and a small. That's all the techniques that we'll cover in tonight's painting. But remember, get your Let's Paint Live kit, because all of these brushes and all of these paints are in the kit and everything that we teach you. That way you've always got all of your supplies. All right, I am using a 12 by 12 canvas. We always get the question, can you paint on a different size, maybe a smaller square, maybe a rectangle? Absolutely. The techniques are the same, and your painting might look a little different, but it will be perfect. All right, the additional supplies that we need for tonight is paper plate or paper towels, a water basin to clean your brushes, some type of palette. I like palette paper, but you can use a paper plate, even a ceramic plate, and then a piece of chalk. And your chalk stick, I'm using white, but if you've got light yellow or light purple, any chalk stick that you have. And then over here, we're not going shopping at Costco, but one of our techniques is scraping the paint to create this ombre. So I call out for a old gift card, an old expired credit card, my AAA card, or my expired Costco card, but any hard plastic card for that technique. And then you guys, always a blow dryer, and the reason for that is our goal is to paint with you and have fun for 1 hour. So we always like to accelerate our dry time so that we can get to the fun part of every painting. All right, with all that said, I want you guys to know that Dylan is in the studio with us today, and he will be answering if you guys have any questions, if you guys want me to slow down or speed up, or just kind of reintroduce you to a technique that we learned. Reach out to Dylan on the chat, and he will communicate and talk with you guys, or he'll answer any questions on the chat.
Yep, and we've got a bunch of people joining us. Kirsten,
Yay.
We were told earlier that we'd have some visitors, or a visitor from Australia, and Kinney has arrived.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
From Australia. I love that. And what is it, early morning and you're painting with a cup of coffee?
And it's autumn.
Oh,
That's
and
what
it's
they're talking
autumn.
about, the nice weather. So.
Oh, we are jealous. We are going to get frost here tonight in Atlanta, which we're very disappointed about. Well, yay. I'm so glad everyone is on there, especially someone from Australia. Okay, so you guys, with that, we're going to get started. So the very first thing, never the most exciting part, but we are going to base coat our canvas. And one of the techniques that I love personally is painting on a dark color, because then adding color to the top is kind of a unique look. So the first thing I'm going to do is navy blue. And all I am going to do is squirt that right onto my canvas, and using my largest flat brush, I am just going to do a solid application of navy blue to work on a dark canvas as opposed to a white canvas. And for the base coat, very simple. It does not have to be perfect. Of course, you don't want a bunch of paint really thick in any area, but if you don't have 100% perfect coverage, you don't need 2 coats. But you can see the FolkArt matte acrylic applies such a beautiful coat of even this dark navy over the white canvas. So you just want a good solid base coat so that all of our techniques will be done on a dark color as opposed to the white. And so you guys can decide what you do, but I always go back after the class and paint my edges to match what I've done on the top. The reason I don't do it in this class is because I want to have a place to hold my canvas. We'll be moving our canvas around a little bit for some of tonight's techniques. So I am going to leave the side of my canvas unpainted, but if you are not going to frame it, these canvases with no staples are just such high quality, and I go back after the class and I do to the edges what I do to the top. So that's why you will see that my edges, I'm just going to keep those white for tonight's class. Okay, pretty great coverage for 1 coat of navy blue. Dylan, I'm going to use the blow dryer to speed this up. Does anyone have any questions before I do that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm just going to blow dry this. People sometimes ask, am I using high heat or cold? Don't worry about it if your blow dryer does not have an option, because anything will work. But I just kind of go back and forth between hot and cold. right, so that is, you can see how quickly working with acrylics, how quickly you can dry the different layers of paint, which is one of the reasons why I love working with acrylics, is because it allows you to layer paints quickly because they dry so quick. Okay, so everyone should have a good, solid, and a dry base coat on their canvas. People always ask also, does it have to be navy? You could do black, you could do a beautiful dark green, you could do a purple. I just want you guys to have the technique of painting on a color as opposed to painting on a white surface. All right, so one thing that I always like to do is not provide a pattern. The reason why is, well, first, we would have covered it up already with our base coat. And second, sometimes when people apply a pattern, they want to color or they want to paint just like if it was a coloring book and stay in the lines and make it exact. Whereas if you don't have that kind of a pattern, I think you learn the techniques a little bit better. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to apply a very basic pattern, and I'm using the chalk stick for that. And what I like to do is kind of break everything up into a basic shape. So this little leprechaun hat is a square for the base. The band is just a long rectangle, kind of a half oval for the inside of the hat. Just really basic shapes. So you're not drawing a hat, you're just drawing shapes. So I'm just going to sketch with the chalk a little square. Can you guys, I want to make sure, okay, you guys can see that. And then I'm going to sketch a long rectangle, kind of to represent the band of the hat. And then I'm going to do an oval. And if you want your hat to sit straight up out of the center, if you want it to come out of the other side, you guys definitely make it your own if you want to change it up. That's what's so fun about painting, is to put your own personal touch on everything. Now I might draw the buckle even though I'm going to paint over it with my base coat, but just to kind of say, oh yeah, I like where it's placed. I'm going to thin out the top of that hat a little bit. The great thing with chalk is you don't have to erase. You can just kind of rub it with your finger or a paper towel. So I like that composition. I like the size of the hat. If you want to, and you guys, we won't use this, but if you kind of wanted to sketch where your rainbow's going to be, you can, just to feel that your hat is big enough, you like the placement, but knowing that we are just going to do that technique of ombreing the colors over there. And then I am not going to, but we can. If you feel comfortable, again, for your composition, you can add a word, and you guys have fun. You can add lucky, which I added. You can add another favorite word for St. Patrick's Day. You can add a last name. You can leave the word off completely. But if you want to, again, just to see the composition, you can just sketch your word on there for placement. And then what I am going to do is all these cute little 4-leaf clovers, we're going to add at the very end, and I am not even going to chalk those on until after I do my rainbow. Because if my rainbow's a little wider or a little thinner, I want to add those after the fact. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to paint our little leprechaun hat. And to do that, on my palette, I'm going to get a little bit of wicker white. Shake those up before you use them. Okay, a little bit of wicker white. A little bit of lime green. A little bit of thicket, which is the darkest green. Daffodil yellow, and just a tiny bit, because we're going to use that just for the buckle of our hat. I always see people that squirt out a giant glob of paint when they're painting, and then they rarely use all of it. So I always say less is more. You can always add to your palette, but it's pretty tough to get that back into the bottle. Okay, so I am going to use a medium flat brush. You would be perfect with a 10, a 12, any size that's just medium-ish and that you're comfortable with. And that's for people who don't have the Let's Paint Live kit. But I'm going to use the number 10. So the technique that we're doing tonight is dry brush, and that simply means don't have any water mixed in with your paints or on your brush. Make sure that your brush is completely dry. If it happens to be wet, just dry it off as good as you can on a paper towel. Okay, so dry brush is no water, and then really a little amount of paint. You don't want to saturate your brush because you want that navy blue to show through. So I'm just going in the thicket, and I am just going to kind of, you're almost scrubbing paint onto your design area. You can see I'm not getting full coverage. I'm not coloring like a coloring book. I'm just kind of, someone said it once years ago, slapping the brush back and forth, very little paint. Let me see if you guys can see that. And just kind of starting the layers of green. Can you guys see how the navy shows through? Same brush. I'm going to put it on the paper towel, not clean it in the water. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of that light green or lime green. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to really random start overlapping the lime green onto that dark thicket. And what it does is it kind of blends a little bit with the dark green. It definitely shows the navy blue. And because you use such little amount of paint, you get all of that great texture. That's what I love about dry brush, is all of that texture that shows through. The dark background and the dry brush technique allows you to get all of those details. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of that medium green. I still haven't used or cleaned my brush in water. And I'm just overlapping all three of those greens. I'm going right up to the chalk. But remember, the great thing about using chalk is at the very end, with a damp cloth, you can remove any of that pattern. You don't have to cover it up or erase it as if you were using a pencil. And so the only key to this, you guys, is make sure that you don't base coat it completely, that you've got some of that navy blue peeking through, because that's what gives you the depth and the dimension. I'm going to do that same exact thing. Not a lot of paint, so my brush is dry. And I'm going to almost polish or scrub green into that brim of the hat. Going to go into the thicket and kind of overlap that on that lighter green. And I always say less paint is better because you can always go back and add, but once it's on your canvas, you won't be able to get it off. So the same thing, I'm following the chalk line, definitely as a guide, but I'm not coloring in exactly. I want maybe a bright section of lime, almost to create a highlight on this side of the hat, and maybe a little more thicket on that side. And same with the brim, I'm going to do a little bit of thicket. So that's kind of your base coat, or the shading and the highlighting of your little leprechaun hat. I'm still not going in the water. I'm just going to remove as much paint as possible on my paper towel. And then I'm actually going to get some black, some FolkArt matte licorice onto my palette. I've still got the green in my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that black, and I'm going to do that same dry brush technique on the band of the leprechaun hat. I hope you guys can see it. You might not be able to, but you'll see it on your paintings at home. Because I didn't clean my brush, the littlest amount of green is in there with the black. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not cleaning my brush, is so that can almost create just a layer of a darker green by adding black into that brush. I'm going to do inside of the little buckle. But even when you're using black, which is darker than the navy, I've still got some of that navy coming through. I'm going to go right back onto that paper towel, and I'm going to pick a little bit of the medium green up and just add a little bit to the black band of the little leprechaun hat. I wanted to kind of be a really, really dark green without mixing a color on my palette. And you can achieve that by doing the dry brush, the green, and the black on the same brush. You guys see that? And don't forget that little square inside the hat buckle. Okay, I'm going to switch brushes here, and I'm going to go to the number 2 flat. And I'm just going to pick up some of that yellow. Same dry brush technique, and I'm going to kind of scrub that on the area that we made a pattern for the buckle. But same thing, you guys, I've still got some navy coming through, which is like a little shadow that automatically appears because of the dark base coat. I'm going to clean off that brush on my paper towel only and dip into the wicker white. I'm actually going to remove a little bit on the paper towel, and I'm going to scrub a little bit of that wicker white right on top of that yellow. I'm going to go back to my other brush, and I'm going to go in the lime green. I still haven't gone in the water. The lime green is actually what I'm using to remove some of the black from the brush. And then I'm going to go in the littlest bit of wicker white and just dry brush a few areas with white. Maybe accent the outside edge of the hat a little. See how the white just makes that pop with the dark blue background? Same thing, a brush loaded with a bunch of greens and a little bit of wicker white. And I'm just polishing. When you use the white like that, what I love the most is it allows the texture of the canvas. Dylan, you guys probably can't see that. Can you see it right there?
Yeah. You can
Allows,
see the underpainting. Yeah.
Oh, yay. It allows the texture of the canvas to show through, which I love. And it just has all those layers of color. A little bit of wicker white. I'm just going to kind of accent or highlight the black band. Just a little, to separate it from the navy. But you get all of that by just dry brushing and layering colors. It's a really fun technique when you're doing something really loose and abstract like this. All right, guys, so our hat is done, but what I'm going to do, so everyone's rainbow is going to be different because we're learning a really fun technique. But what I'm going to do is I am going to pretty much base coat maybe half of the inside of my hat. And you can just kind of draw a line with the darkest green, which is the thicket. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when we do our rainbow, I want it to come out of a green base coat color as opposed to the navy. But some people, depending on how we place our paint, how we use the scrape technique, your rainbow might start lower, it might start higher. So we are just going to be prepared by having a little base coat of green inside our leprechaun hat. You don't have to go all the way up, doesn't have to be exact, but you just want to have a little base coat of dark green. All right, guys, our hat is done. I'm going to put those brushes into the water. Now we can add water and clean those out. But we're going to use them again for the clovers. So once they're clean, remove as much water as you can on a dry paper towel, because we'll be using those brushes again in a little bit. Okay. So the next technique is it's really not even a technique. It's just a fun way. Dylan's the master here at Plaid of our FolkArt drizzle program, right? I'm sure you guys have seen all of his fabulous videos, and the trend of marbleizing and blending and scraping and applying paint any way other than with a brush is so popular right now. So this is just that. It's a fun way to apply paint without using a brush. So back to my AAA. Nobody try to get your car towed because that was from 2017. Any type of credit card, gift card, anything that's that rigid plastic that is about the size of the design. That's what you'll need. Okay, so, and you guys, again, I always say, have fun with it. Do not mimic my rainbow exactly if you want maybe just baby pink, or you want a lighter aqua, or you want to skip purple altogether. Make this whatever is perfect for you. But I'm going to kind of copy this painting. Okay, so the first thing I am going to do is pick my colors. I used red, I used bright pink, I used orange and yellow, and only my lime green. So my dark and my medium green I'm taking out. We're done with navy blue. I'm going to use this beautiful aqua, true blue, and purple. Okay, I'm going to read those off to you guys just for anybody that's following exactly. Red, bright pink, pure orange, daffodil yellow, lime green, aqua, true blue, and lavender. Okay, so this is a little tricky. There's tons of room for forgiveness because, again, it's just a fun abstract technique. I am going to squirt the paint directly on my painting. If you guys want to squirt it on your palette and pick it up with a brush, that is absolutely fine, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the color that's in the middle. So that is my yellow. I just kind of found the buckle, found that yellow is the center. It's easier than starting from left to right or right to left for me. Same rule of thumb, you can always apply more, but it's hard to get it off. So I'm going to apply a decent size amount, and I'm in the center of my canvas. And then I'm just going to work my way left and right. A little bit of the lime green. Oh, I'll put that back there. A little bit of the aqua. And I'm letting those little blobs of paint actually touch. If they're not touching, there's a chance that you'll have a little navy section in between each color. A little bit of the true blue. Then the purple. I love when paint goes on like this. It makes me so happy. Then a little bit of the orange. Make sure all of your paints, if you've not used them before, give them a little shake. Or squeeze them out on a paper towel first. A little bit of orange. Then a little bit of red. And then the pink. Oh, I love anything in order like that.
Nice, pretty rainbow.
Makes me so happy. Okay, I'm going to scoot those paints to the side. I hope people are painting with us. Everyone's so quiet.
Yeah.
No questions at all.
No, we haven't had any questions, but we've had some more viewers. We've got people from Michigan, California, Florida, Alabama,
Yay.
Atlanta, and then we have a person from Sweden joining us.
Oh,
so
I
that's
love
really
that.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, guys, so we've got a great little assortment of colors, and don't overthink it for anyone that's watching. If your pink is not exactly the size of mine, if your purple is a little different, there is so much room to be flexible in this technique. So all we're doing, you guys, is we are scraping the color like if you were spreading peanut butter, or if you were decorating a cake. This is like our little spatula. We are just going to spread the color from here to here. You guys, be creative. If you want to do a little swirl, if you want your rainbow to be wider, but the technique is to get behind your little blobs of paint and just pull. And the only tip that you really need for this is you don't want to mash down so hard that when you pull, you're removing all of your paint and dropping it off the end of your canvas. You're not cleaning your windshield. You're just lightly spreading. Sometimes I tell people to just hold the card or the scraper with 2 fingers. That allows you to have a much lighter grip. But you're not wanting to apply pressure. You're just wanting to lightly move that paint to the end of your canvas. Another tip that I have is if you're comfortable pulling away from you, that's perfect. If you're like me and it's more comfortable to pull towards you, move your canvas to whatever is easy for you. If you are better pulling left to right or right to left, you can go like this and pull that way. I am most comfortable pulling towards me, so I have turned my canvas upside down. Okay, this is not only the most fun part, but it's also the most nervous part because you never know what you're going to get. Okay, light pressure. I'm going to start on one side because my scraper is not big enough to do all the colors at the same time. I'm going to start over here on the pink edge. And I'm going to pull. Just that is so beautiful.
Looking good.
Voila! It's like the little leprechaun visited. Now you guys have to decide. I personally, where it kind of skipped here and the navy blue comes through, I love that. If you don't like that and you want a solid yellow stripe, there's a few things that you can do. Actually, I'm going to show you guys at the very end. But don't panic or don't think you've messed up if that's what happens. Again, I personally love it, but there's so many different things that we can do. Okay, I cleaned off my credit card just on a dry paper towel, and now I'm going to scoot with the edge where we left off, not like this, because then you'll scratch this twice, where the edge is where we left off, and I'm going to pull just like we did before, to create that beautiful rainbow. I actually like that one better than my original.
That's cute.
So here, you guys, I love where it jumped around and skipped. If you don't like that, this is where I was telling you guys, this technique is so forgiving. You can just put a little bit of paint where it skipped. If you guys are pleased with yours, be done. I'm going to kind of overwork mine just to troubleshoot and show you guys all of the possibilities of what you can do to change it, to recomb it, to fix it, to make it wider, whatever you think you need to do to make it perfect. So I added some paint in the areas where the navy blue was showing through. And I'm just showing you guys this so that you can see the options when you're doing this. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start on this side, pink, red, orange, yellow, and green. And I'm going to lightly, very lightly scrape just to get the movement. And then I'm going to just keep going back and forth, but you guys ever so lightly. So I'm just filling in those areas. You kind of get almost a marbled look when you do this. I actually love where the yellow jumped on the orange. Clean off your credit card on a dry paper towel. Back to the center, and I'm going to do, oh, I don't know why I tried to switch hands. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, the lightest amount of pressure. But I'm always combing from top to bottom, never starting in the middle, because then you'll get a line right there. And with the lightest pressure, I'm combing that together. And that's kind of a unique marbled look. It kind of blends the colors. So really whatever look you like for your canvas. I'm going to go over that one more time. And I actually picked up a little bit of paint. You guys can choose to have fun with that on the edges of your canvas, or you can leave the navy blue. But if you want to use that color, take the edge of your credit card and put it on the edge of your canvas and just kind of drag it towards your painting. You can see it just applies just a little bit of color in a really unique pattern. I'm going to lightly go over my rainbow, pick up a little bit on my credit card, and rather than cleaning it off on my paper towel, I'm going to just add some fun color to the edge of my canvas. And you guys don't have to do that. You can keep scraping it if you want more of the navy to show. It's just the technique of applying paint with a scraper tool or a credit card.
Now we had a question. Couldn't you just use a brush to fix the bare spots?
Absolutely. Your brush will be a little different texture, but you can see I'll do that as well. Maybe only you would notice, but that scraper makes it perfectly smooth. The brush will flatten out, but you just want to be careful. You don't want your brush strokes to stand out in the middle of the technique that we did. Okay, so once you've got your rainbow exactly as you want it, if you turned your canvas, we're going to turn it back, and then we're going to go back to our chalk stick, and we are going to apply little clovers. And you guys, the little clovers, again, rather than providing a pattern, are nothing more than 4 little hearts. So I'm going to put a little dot where I want some clovers. 1, 2, maybe 1 right there, maybe 1 up there, and 1 right there. And then on my little dot, going on the top, I'm going to draw a long heart. On the bottom, I'm going to draw another heart. And then I'm going to do the same on both sides. So you can see, rather than a clover pattern, everybody can draw a heart. So we're just breaking it down into a shape that everybody knows. This one I'm going to do just a tad bit smaller. So I've got 3 clovers on the one side. And I'm just going quick with the chalk because remember, it's there for placement, but we're not going to do it exactly. So I've got all the little clovers around my painting. So I'm going to go back to my smallest flat brush that we used for the buckle. It's dry, and I'm going to go back into the greens that I've already got on my palette. And the first green I'm going to use is this light lime green. And you guys, we're going to do the same dry brush technique. We're going to just base coat by scrubbing color onto all of our little hearts, or the 4 leaves of our clover. And same as the hat, making sure that some of that navy blue shows through. Not worrying if we cover the chalk completely, because once your canvas is totally dry, you can just wipe that off with a damp paper towel. And I'm just using that lime green. But definitely letting some of that navy blue show through. Painting on a dark color is my favorite thing, because where you would go in and add shadows and highlights and just layer color on color, if you were working on a white base coat, you don't have to do that with the dark. And being kind of a fun, abstract, not perfect painting is such a quick, fun way to get all of those layers of shading. Okay, so lime green, still no water, dry it off on the paper towel. I'm going to go into that ivy and just scrub the dark green, the thicket, sorry guys. The dark green is the thicket, just on a few areas of the clover. I need a little bit more of that medium green. You guys can see we've used very little paint today. That's why I always say it's so good to just apply what you need to your palette, because then you've got enough folk art paint to join us every single week. So still no water, just doing a dry brush technique. I'm going to remove some of that green on a dry paper towel, and I'm going to go in just barely to that bright daffodil yellow. And I'm going to dry brush mainly towards the center of my little 4-leaf clovers to kind of brighten up the center with a touch of yellow. But you guys can see there's lots of layers of green. The navy is still shining through. We're just brightening up the center. Okay, now we are going to switch to our liner brush. And this is, for those of you that don't have the kit, a liner brush is just a really thin round brush that allows you to get the detail. So we're going to use that for the detail in the clover and to personalize it with our word. So first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to get a little bit more of the dark green, the thicket, just a little bit onto my palette if you don't have any. And I'm going to load the liner brush with the dark green. And I'm simply going to do a little stem, not a stem, a little vein in the center of each of my hearts or my clover leaves, just to add a little detail. But no pattern is necessary. We're just giving it a little bit of detail. Oops. Almost like a little snowflake in the center of your clover. Just to separate the leaves. And then I'm going to use that same dark green, that thicket, to do a little stem. I'm actually going to touch into the lime green so that you guys can see it better. And for the stem, I'm just pulling down outside of the hearts and just giving a little stem to each one of our clovers. I almost put my sleeve in my leprechaun rainbow. I'm going to touch that brush in the white, the wicker white, removing some of it, and just go over my stem. Maybe dry brush a little bit of wicker white like we did for our hat.
We had a question when you get to a stopping point just to see a close-up of what you've been doing.
Oh, absolutely. I
Just
can
a
do that now.
We'll
Let's
pause.
see. So let me hold that up. It's really a fun abstract painting. So you guys can see the details in each clover are really that abstract, kind of dry brushed, loose technique that we have going on everywhere. Layering colors, letting the navy show through. And I'm just doing a little bit of wicker white on a dry brush on the stems and on maybe just one or two sections of my little clover leaves. So you've kind of created a cute little fabric pattern, a calico print around your leprechaun hat and your rainbow. Okay, same liner brush, guys. I'm going to clean that in the water. And I am going to, if you don't have a clean little section of wicker white on your palette, add a little bit more. And I'm going to add just a little bit of water by using a wet brush. So clean your brush, tap it on your basin, and apply just that amount of water. Don't forget to tap it so you don't have too much water. Apply that amount of water to your wicker white. This is the only time on our painting we're going to use any water. And I did it twice, so I'm going to get a little bit more wicker white. You basically want mostly wicker white right out of the bottle with just a touch of water so it moves just a little bit better. Load your liner brush and then add your personalization or your word. If you need to chalk it again, chalk it on your canvas. And what I like to do is just copy my chalk pattern as if I was writing with a pen or a marker. And then I'll show you guys a little trick to make the font a little bit more perfect with a paintbrush. Okay, so I wrote it just like I would with a pen, but it's, you know, it's fine, but it's could be a little bit cuter. So what I always tell people is on the down, if you were writing up and then down, up and then down, on the down, I like to go over it a second time and make it thicker. So I left the up alone, but then I'm thickening up the L on the down. I'm going to leave the up alone, but I'm going to thicken up the down. Pick up paint as you need it. I'm going to leave the up alone, but then I'm going to thicken up where it goes down. Same with the C. The C, you kind of go up on that little section, but then you're going to thicken up the down. On the K, that's where I would go up. So I'm just going to do that on the down. I'm getting more paint as I need it. It's just a really simple rule when you're doing a font with a paintbrush to make it look so much better with that simple rule of just thickening up the strokes that go down. See how different that looks? You don't have to learn calligraphy. You don't have to take hours of calligraphy classes, but just that little rule of thumb, thickening up the downstroke when you're writing to just really change up the way a font looks on a painting. Okay, you guys, so if you want to add a little highlight, you can see I did that over here. I've got my liner brush, a little bit of wet wicker white, tap that on the paper towel, but maybe I'll put a little highlight inside the buckle, maybe a little highlight on the hat band, maybe just a little detail. You're not outlining it because you don't want to do an exact outline of your stroke work. But if you want to add just a little bit of white, just to pop that off the background. Same with your little clovers. If you wanted to do just a little highlight, maybe in just a few of the little clover leaves. Really just to add some fun elements to your painting. Okay, I think that's it, Dylan. Do we have any questions?
I don't think so. I think everybody's really enjoyed this.
I hope so. All right, you guys, we want to say Happy Craft Month. We want to say Happy St. Patrick's Day. When is St. Patrick's Day? I think
This
Friday.
Friday. Mm-hmm.
This Friday. We hope you enjoyed today's class, and let me show you what you guys get to do next week. So next week is extra special. We have got Donna Dewberry, a dear friend and the creator of the FolkArt one-stroke painting technique. The woman is magical. If you guys have not painted with her before, what doesn't she do, Dylan? She blends and shades and highlights by loading her brush in this magical way. She'll create this beautiful background, and you guys will be able to do these beautiful flowers in an hour, and you will be in awe of Donna's technique. She's a fabulous teacher. So this is next week, you guys, Monday, same time, 7:30, and this is Springtime Magnolias with Donna Dewberry. So I hope to see you guys next Monday. Thanks for joining us. Bye.